Would you believe a forest can change the world? 6 questions. 6 ways sustainable wood is quietly and powerfully shaping life for the better. Would you store carbon in a coffee table? In Kenya, mango trees become furniture, locking up carbon and unlocking income for farmers. By 2050, long-life wooden products could store 1 billion tons of CO2 every year. Would you build a skyscraper with trees? Concrete and steel each create over 8% of global CO2 emissions. But in Norway, engineered spruce is rising high, cutting emissions and reshaping skylines with a lighter footprint. Would you trust a tree to hold back the sea? In the Netherlands, lock gates are made from African azobe. In Gabon, that same tree sustains families. Globally, forests provide jobs for 42 million people. Trees grow more than wood. They grow livelihoods. Would you choose a resource that renews itself? In Brazil, forests are planted, nurtured, and harvested, again and again. Since 2000, certified forests have increased nearly 8-fold. What other building material grows back? Would you wear a tree? Fashion creates up to 9% of ocean microplastics. In Finland, trees are spun into soft, breathable fibers, cutting waste, not style. Would you launch a tree into orbit? In Japan, engineers built the world's first wooden satellite. It burns up cleanly on re-entry, unlike metal debris. With over 140 million pieces of junk already circling Earth, wood could be the clean break space needs. From skyscrapers to satellites, tables to textiles, wood is reshaping how we live, work, and dream. As strong as steel, soft as cotton, greener than concrete. The answers are growing all around us. The only question is, would you choose them?
Good morning, Your Excellencies, dear colleagues. I would like to welcome you to this summit on my behalf. My name is Tiina Rytilä, and I'm the Senior Ministerial Advisor at the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry of Finland. And I have the great pleasure of being your moderator during these 3 days in this plenary room. So my role is making sure that you have enough to eat and you have enough coffee, so to keep you fit for the important discussions that we are going to have during these days. So I have this Austrian help. When you hear that bell ringing, it means that I need your attention. We are about 260 people today in Vienna from all around the world, and there are more than 200 people also online. So warm welcome also to the online participants. Just a few practical issues before the official kickoff. All the relevant documents can be found online. There is also a QR code behind your name tag that brings you to the COLI website where the documents are found. If you have any practical questions, the best place to get answers is the help desk, which is situated just here outside the plenary room. You can also get papers printed there if necessary, and all the documents are also found there. There are some copies. If you use social media, please use 2 hashtags, COLI Summit, of course, but also Grow the Solution, related to the video that we have just seen. Okay, we will now start the high-level session of the summit, and I would like to introduce to you the co-chairs and ask them to take their seats on the stage. So His Excellency, Mr. Norbert Tocznik, Federal Minister of Agriculture and Forestry, Climate and Environmental Protection, Regions and Water Management of the Republic of Austria. Ms. Pumecha Nodada, Deputy Director General, Forestry Management Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment of the Republic of South Africa, and Mr. Georg Rappold, Director of Wood Policy, Bioeconomy and Innovation at the Federal Ministry of Austria. Welcome.
Excellencies, dear Commissioner, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, there's a concept that has shaped Austria for generations, one that may sound simple but is in fact profoundly ambitious. The idea that a thriving economy and a healthy society are not in competition with nature but are utterly dependent upon it. This concept is deeply rooted in Austria's eco-social market tradition that aims at respecting the balance of all three dimensions of sustainability: economic growth, environmental protection, and social equity. Now here is the philosophy more alive or more tangible than in the concept of a forest-based bioeconomy. It is in this spirit that I extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you here in Vienna and online to this very first Global Summit on Advancing Sustainable Forest-Based Bioeconomy Approaches. It is a particular pleasure to welcome our co-chair and the 2025 G20 presidency, South Africa. I'm honored that Ms. Phumisa Nodada, Deputy Director General for Forestry Management in the South African Ministry for Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, joins Austria in chairing this summit. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a 2-year process that led us to this global summit. Most of you have personally been part of this journey. But why is it so important to talk about bioeconomy and forest-based bioeconomy in particular? A simplified definition of bioeconomy may be that it is an economic system based on the sustainable production and utilization of biological resources, providing renewable and innovative alternatives across sectors. Forests are at the center of such a bioeconomy. At the European level, the European Commission did not only present a forest strategy, but has recently also published the Youth Bioeconomy Strategy. This is an indicator that forest-based bioeconomy is more than forest management and the construction of wood-based buildings. Commissioner Jessica Roswell, who is joining us today, has been instrumental in drafting the Youth Bioeconomy Strategy, and I look forward to hearing from her on the European Union's broad visions of advancing bioeconomy. But let me now share a few thoughts on forest-based bioeconomy. Wood is not only a renewable resource, it is a locally available resource with a number of properties that makes it usable in many applications across sectors. The use cases range from construction to packaging, from biomaterial for clothing to biomass for energy. This shows us that wood matters. And through extensive research, we continue to discover new properties and applications. Take timber construction. Wood is one of our oldest materials, yet today it sits at the cutting edge of innovation. A new research project under the name SYS Wood and enabled by the Austrian Forest Fund is completely reimagining how wooden buildings are designed and built using digital tools and smarter workflows to make timber construction faster, safer, and scalable. This is bioeconomy in practice, a renewable, nature-based material being supercharged by technology to replace non-renewable materials in our cities, creating green jobs, reducing emissions, and providing that working with nature is not a step backwards, but is a leap forward. This makes wood a vital competitor to non-biogenic resources and a key instrument for climate change mitigation. Moreover, the wood and forestry sector creates value chains that generate wealth at regional and global level while sustaining over generations. In Europe alone, the forestry and timber industries contribute 1.1 trillion euros in value and provide employment for around 17 million people. These figures clearly show that wood matters, not only for our economies, but also for climate action, rural development, and the transition to a clean, fair, and competitive global economy. This is the first time so many countries and organizations have worked together so closely to make such a conference possible. And it is a testament to the potential of a forest-based bioeconomy. It is also a testament to the potential of global partnerships generated through bioeconomy. This country and organization-led initiative on sustainable forest-based bioeconomy approaches, which has been initiated together with Australia, Finland, Japan, Turkey, FO, UNFF, and UFO, will want to expand on this global partnership. Our aim is to exchange ideas and strengthen global cooperation to advance sustainable forest-based bioeconomy approaches worldwide. Over the course of this summit, we aim to develop concrete outcomes, culminating in the Vienna call for action, which will address 5 critical dimensions. Firstly, take leadership for systemic transformation. Secondly, ensure an inclusive bioeconomy. Thirdly, mobilize targeted financial resources. Fourthly, create enabling conditions for forest-based value chains, innovations. And fifthly, build collaborative partnerships and multilateral processes. The outcomes of this summit will feed directly into UNFF 21 taking place in New York, and the FAO Committee for Forest 2028 taking place in Rome. It will make recommendations to inform discussions on priorities and support global action. Before I conclude, I would like to extend a special thanks to Australia, whose financial support enabled travel assistance for participants, and to all the friends of COLI and the steering committee for their tireless work in preparing this summit. At this spirit, I would like to again reiterate that wood matters and that together we have the opportunity to advance a sustainable, inclusive, and resilient global bioeconomy. Thank you very much. And it's now my great pleasure to invite my distinguished co-chair, Ms. Phumisa Nodada, Deputy Director General for Forestry Management of the South African Department of Forestry, Fishery and Environment, to the floor and share her perspective and bioeconomy with us. Thank
you. Your Excellency, Federal Minister of Agriculture and Forestry, Climate and Environmental Protection, Regions and Water Management in the Republic of Austria, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, partner organizations, participants both in the room and virtually, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a great honor and privilege to co-chair this session of the Global Summit on Advancing Sustainable Forest-Based Bioeconomy Approaches here in Vienna, Austria. On behalf of the South African government and delegation, I extend our sincere appreciation to the government of Austria for inviting South Africa to co-chair this important meeting, and for the warm hospitality extended not only to us, but to all the participants. This summit, convened as a country-led and organization-led initiative, COLI, represents a significant milestone in the global forest policy architecture. It directly supports the work of the United Nations Forum on Forests and the Committee on Forestry, and reflects a growing recognition that forests are central to the global transition towards sustainable inclusive and resilient communities. We meet at a time of profound global transition. The world is facing interconnected challenges such as climate change, energy insecurity, food system stress, rising inequality, technological disruption, and pressure on multilateral institutions. These challenges are not abstract. They are lived realities, particularly for developing countries where development gains remain fragile and uneven. In this context, platforms such as COLI are not merely conferences. They are platforms for practical multilateralism. Dialogue must translate into cooperation, and commitments must evolve into implementation. Allow me to situate our discussions with a broader global policy landscape, particularly the South African presidency of G20 in 2025. The G20 continues to play a critical role in shaping global economic governance, development financing, climate action, and inclusive growth. For South Africa, leading the G20 represented an opportunity and a responsibility, an opportunity to influence the global agenda and a responsibility to ensure that the agenda reflects the realities and priorities of most of the developing world's population, including the need for sustainable, nature-based, and forest-driven development pathways. The theme for the South African G20 presidency was solidarity, equality, and sustainability. Solidarity underscores the cooperation and mutual support. Equality emphasizes fairness, dignity, and opportunity for all, whereas sustainability reminds us of our responsibility for future generations. At the 2025 G20 summit in Johannesburg, leaders reaffirmed the urgent need for accelerated climate action and increased financing for developing countries. For the first time, environmental crimes, including illegal logging and wildlife poaching, were formally recognized as global threats. Leaders further underscored the critical role of forests in climate resilience, biodiversity protection, and sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, forests play a dual and indispensable role in addressing global challenges. They are among the most powerful carbon sinks, absorbing greenhouse gases and stabilizing ecosystems. At the same time, they are a vital source of livelihoods, where sustainable forest management, agroforestry, ecotourism, and non-timber forest products provide income, food security, and economic opportunity for millions. Forests also regulate water cycles, protect biodiversity, and offer cultural and recreational value. They are not just natural guardians against climate change, they are energies of sustainable development. Technology and innovation in the forest-based sector further enhance this potential, expanding market opportunities, improving competitiveness, and strengthening specific value chains. Digital tools, biorefinery technologies, and new biomaterials create pathways for climate-friendly industrialization and green jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, the Global South is not a passive recipient of solutions. It is a source of innovation, resilience, and leadership. From community-based forest governance to renewable energy development, developing countries are already pioneering models that can inspire the world. The outcomes of the summit, together with the Vienna Call for Action, will feed directly into the UNFF 21 and Call for 28, ensuring that our work here shape the next decade and global forest bioeconomy policy. Let this summit be guided by one principle: no global forest and bioeconomy agenda can succeed unless it works for all of us. In an uncertain world, multilateral cooperation is not an option, it is essential. Let us use this platform to build bridges, align priorities, and translate ambition into tangible, measurable, and inclusive outcomes. The time is now to move from policy to practice. I look forward to our engagements and wish all of you a productive and a successful summit. Thank you very much.
Ms. Nodada, thank you very much for your thoughtful opening remarks and for South Africa's strong commitment in serving as co-chair of this summit. We greatly appreciate your leadership and support in shaping this dialogue. By bringing forward African perspectives and reflecting the outcomes and priorities emerging from the G20 process, you are enriching our discussion. Your contribution will strengthen the global dimension of our exchange and underscored the value of close global cooperation. And now I'm delighted to invite Ms. Jessica Roswell, European Commissioner for Environment, Water Resilience and a Competitive Circular Economy, to the stage.
Dear Minister Toczyk, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to join you here in Vienna to discuss a vital question: how to build a thriving, resilient and sustainable forest-based bioeconomy. And I cannot think of a better place to talk about the potential of our forests as a strategic homegrown resource for Europe. Austria is deeply rooted in Europe's forest heritage. The forests here are diverse, covering nearly half of your country and supporting over 300,000 jobs. They are living, evolving systems that drive innovation, sustain nature, and power society. Austria's forest-based bioeconomy is cutting edge, and it highlights the enormous opportunities for growth. Research projects are investigating the potential of timber concrete composite constructions, as we saw in the screen. That was Norway, but anyway. Innovative companies are converting forestry byproducts into high-quality ingredients, biofuels and biomaterials. And businesses are producing biodegradable, compostable products and packaging from renewable raw materials. I think we can see it outside in the exhibition. Of course, this is just snapshots, and all over the world there are multiple examples of where innovations meet the power of our forest. I've seen it myself all over the world. And now we need to translate that potential into concrete benefits for our companies, our economies, and our societies. And this global summit is the perfect place to discuss that process, to share experience and knowledge and learn from each other. And as Mr. Minister Toczyk said, we have in the European Commission recently presented the new EU bioeconomy strategy. And that is based on the idea that circularity, sustainability, and innovation go hand in hand. In fact, they reinforce each other and in turn maximize the enormous potential for growth, decarbonization, and quality jobs. First, we want to translate innovation into impact. That means ensuring that bio-based breakthroughs reach citizens and benefit the society. Forest-based innovations and bio-based materials more generally can contribute to construction, manufacturing, mobility, chemicals, textiles, packaging, and much more, while at the same time reduce our use of fossil fuel feedstocks. We have to bring these innovations into the market. SMEs will receive targeted support to scale, and EU funding will help bridge the gap from prototype to production. Our ambition is a regulatory environment which supports the development of biomaterials and bioproducts, where European bioinnovation doesn't merely compete, but sets the global standards. Second, we will back bio-based lead markets that deliver for both the planet and prosperity, including bio-based construction materials, textiles, and plastics. To accelerate this change, we are launching a Bio-Based Europe Alliance, a 10 billion euro collective commitment by 2030 to scale up biosolutions across industries. And the third pillar is about sustainability. While boosting today's competitiveness, we need to build tomorrow's resilience. We need to manage our forest wisely, and that means we must support our farmers and foresters and farmers to do what they do best, manage their land, not just for today, but also for future generations. We have to reward those who protect our forests and soils and enhance carbon sinks with new market tools like the nature credits and an EU buyers club for carbon. And fourth, we will strengthen global partnership, like we are doing here today. This is surely the surest way to secure the resilient supply chains and reduce our exposure to vulnerabilities in global value chains. So my message is this: let's work together. And looking out in this room, Europe is not alone in promoting a sustainable and bio-based economy. Over 50 countries have adopted bioeconomy strategies, and through our trade and agreements, partnerships and initiatives like the Global Gateway, we want to support the growth of bio-based innovatives across the world. Ladies and gentlemen, a resilient forest-based bioeconomy depends on soil quality, a stable water cycle and a genetic diversity. That is why our work on the bioeconomy is closely aligned with our broader environmental and economic frameworks. For example, we need to increase circularity across bio-based value chains, and this means recovering and recycling valuable raw materials, including agriculture, forest and industrial residues, and side streams. Our upcoming Circular Economy Act aims to accelerate this transformation. For example, it seeks to eliminate market fragmentation, which is often seen as the key barrier to a development of circular bioeconomy. Water scarcity, which is spreading across the world also here in Europe, is a damage for forest health, the resilience, and our productivity. On the other hand, healthy forest helps us to purify and store water. So, protecting forest means protecting water and vice versa. Our water resilience strategy aims to restore and safeguard the water cycle and build a water-smart economy in Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, preserving and strengthening the ecosystem functions of our forest is another important part of this bigger picture. And here in the EU, we have the EU Nature Restoration Regulation that provides a framework for this. It sets clear targets, but gives member states flexibility to act where it matters the most. For forests, this means restoring nature in a way that can support sustainable management, climate adaptation, and high-value bioeconomy products. Forest owners and industry play a crucial role, because restoration is not just an environmental necessity, it's an economic opportunity, cutting disturbance risk, boosting carbon storage, and strengthening value chains. And with 35% in the next EU budget earmarked for climate and environment, plus private investments as nature credits, we can turn ambition into concrete actions. Ladies and gentlemen, our forests are full of untapped potential, sustainable solutions, innovation, and a route to greater competitiveness. Maximizing that potential means managing forests wisely. My goal is to grow the sector, but also to ensure its long-term viability. And of course, our success depends on collaboration. Policymakers, business, foresters, scientists, and civil society must work together, and events like this are an important part of this journey. I am sure that I will assure you that we are ready to play our part, and together we can deliver more quality jobs, a competitive, sustainable, forest-based bioeconomy, and a resilient, prosperous world economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for sharing the European bioeconomy perspective at this global summit. Your reflections on the European Union's strategic direction, its commitment, and the role of innovation in advancing the bioeconomy provide valuable guidance. Thank you very much. I now have the pleasure to to announce a video message from Sahi Esai, Minister of Agriculture and Forestry of Finland, who unfortunately could not join us in person today.
Good morning, Your Excellencies and all the participants of this summit. It is a pleasure for me to give these opening remarks and to send you winterly greetings from Finland. The topic of the summit is of great importance, and I am sure we all share the idea that sustainable forest-based bioeconomy approaches offer promising solutions for the future. The global agenda of the forest sector is shaped by increasingly complex environmental, political and economic pressures. We are all operating in a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape where challenges also in multilateral forest cooperation exist. These developments underline the importance of global cooperation. Scaling up forest-based bioeconomy approaches is not just an opportunity, it's a necessity for a sustainable future. Cooperation across countries, sectors, science and institutions will be key to turning principles into action. Developing shared principles and global recommendations is key for a common bioeconomy vision, but they must be adapted to local conditions to seize opportunities, manage trade-offs, and mainstream nature and climate-positive practices. International organizations can support countries in applying the recommendations and provide natural spaces for dialogue, while lessons from forest sector policies and practices can also inform global discussions and shape contributions to the broader bioeconomy. Here I would like to take the opportunity to thank the United Nations Forum on Forests and the FAO for their work on forest-based bioeconomy. I hope this summit will provide you with strong policy recommendations. Now, let me turn for a few moments to the experience we have in Finland. Finland has had a national bioeconomy strategy since 2014. The recent update of the strategy has a vision sustainably towards higher value added. It changes the focus from increasing the use of biomass to creating more value. All sectors of the bioeconomy are important for Finland, but our unique feature is the dominance of the forest sector, as roughly 75% of Finnish land area is covered in forests. Another aspect that I would like to highlight is our National Forest Bioeconomy Science Panel, established 3 years ago. It provides independent, multidisciplinary research to support science-based decisions and sustainable forest use and innovation. We do not yet know all what bioeconomy is capable of, and that's why also research and innovations are very important. There are already now multiple very exciting products that can be made of forest-based raw materials. I hope you have time to visit the new wood exhibition that we have brought to Vienna to the meeting venue. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, we need stronger multi-stakeholder partnerships, practical tools, and inclusive dialogue to make forest-based bioeconomy approaches a reality at scale. Multilateral cooperation and national adaptation will help us balance opportunities and risks. Finally, I would like to thank the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Regions and Water Management of Austria for the initiative and everyone who have contributed to the preparations of the summit. I wish you all a successful meeting. So, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Finland is an important partner to the country-led initiative. Finland's strategic approach, long-standing forest expertise, and commitment to innovation and sustainability contribute greatly to our discussion. And now I'm delighted to announce another important partner who will join us via video. Please welcome Eiji Tanimura, Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and the Fisheries of Japan.
Good morning, Your Excellency Minister Teochenik, Madam Co-Chair Ms. Nodada, and distinguished participants. My name is Tanimura, Deputy Director General of the Forestry Agency of Japan. I am truly honored to deliver this message today. I would like to begin by expressing my sincere appreciation to the government of Australia, led by Minister Tochnik, for hosting this important meeting. I also extended my gratitude to co-conveners, FAO, UNFF, UFRO, and everyone gathered here for their strong cooperation. Japan has long been committed to advancing sustainable forest management and wood use. We have strengthened collaboration with like-minded partners, for example, through the Ministerial Call on Sustainable Wood at the 15th World Forestry Congress, and the high-level dialogue Wood for Growth, hosted by Minister Tochnik as a pre-event to COP27. Last November, I participated in UNFCCC COP30. At the Forest Pavilion, led by the UNFF Secretariat, I joined various events and welcomed the endorsement of the principles for its responsible timber construction, developed through the FCLP, with more than 300 private companies, as well as 15 countries, for guiding responsible wood use, from forest to buildings. Japan has developed its own bioeconomy strategy. Forest resources, covering about 70% of our land, play a central role in this strategy. Based on the circulation and utilization of forest resources, we expected to address issues related to health, well-being, and achieving sustainable economic growth. Aligned with that, in the revising process of the basic plan for forest and forestry, we are further specifying the necessary measures. Finally, Japan would like to emphasize the importance of broad and continuous innovations. FAO's flagship publication highlights 5 types of innovation: technological, social, policy, institutional, and financial, for expanding the potential of forests and trees to address global challenges. Japan firmly believes such innovations are essential for achieving sustainable forest-based bioeconomy. In closing, Japan looks forward to strengthening collaboration with Australia, co-conveners, international partners, and all of you here today. Together, let us move forward. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
I would like to thank Japan for their active support of the summit and for the long-lasting collaboration. I'm pleased to now introduce a video message from Pekka Karasabi, Director General of the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry of the Republic of Turkey.
Sayın Bakan, değerli eş başkanlar, saygıdeğer konuklar. Türkiye Cumhuriyeti adına bu önemli zirvede sizlerle bulunmaktan büyük onur duyuyorum. Avusturya'ya ev sahipliği ve mükemmel organizasyonu için şükranlarımızı sunarız. Değerli katılımcılar, sürdürülebilir orman yönetimi ve ormana dayalı biyoekonomi, iklim değişikliği, biyolojik çeşitlilik kaybı ve kalkınma ihtiyaçları gibi küresel zorluklara yanıt vermekte kilit role sahiptir. Türkiye olarak orman varlığımızı artırmak ve ormanların çok yönlü işlevlerini güçlendirmek için kararlı adımlar atıyoruz. Ancak biliyoruz ki bu yolda hiçbir ülke tek başına yürüyemez. Bu nedenle tam da bugün burada ele alınan ülke liderliğindeki işbirliği modelinin ne kadar hayati olduğunu vurgulamak isterim. Geçen yıl Ekim ayında Türkiye'nin liderliğinde UNFF ve FAO işbirliğinde İstanbul'da düzenlediğimiz Orman Yangınları, Hazırlık ve Yenilikçi Teknolojiler başlıklı ülke liderliği girişimi o kolektif ruhun bir kanıtıdır. Avusturya, Güney Afrika gibi diğer ülke ve kuruluşlar bu sürece önemli katkılar sunmuş ve ortaya çıkan İstanbul raporunun hazırlanmasında paydaş olmuşlardır. Bu zirveden çıkacak eş başkanlar özetinin yalnızca politika yapıcılar için değil, sahada çalışanlar, bilim insanları, özel sektör ve yerel topluluklar için de yol gösterici olacağına inanıyoruz. Biyoekonomi yaklaşımlarının orman ekosistemlerinin sağlığını ve direncini koruyarak insan refahını ve yeşil kalkınmayı nasıl teşvik edebileceğine dair pratik çözümler geliştirmeliyiz. Sonuç olarak, Türkiye olarak bu zirvenin küresel orman gündemine güçlü bir ivme kazandırmasını diliyoruz. Sürdürülebilir bir gelecek için bilgimizi, tecrübemizi ve kararlılığımızı birleştirelim. Verimli tartışmalar ve başarılı bir zirve temenni ediyor. Ev sahiplerine bir kez daha teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you very much. I would also like to extend my thanks to Turkey for their support throughout the COLI process. And now I'm delighted to invite Mr. Joseph Morel, Director of International Policy, Forests and Chemicals, Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry of Australia, to the stage to deliver his statements on behalf of Australia.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Excellencies, colleagues, on behalf of the Australian Government, I wish to extend my sincere thanks and appreciation to the Austrian Government for hosting this truly global summit, and to Austria and South Africa for guiding our important dialogues. Australia welcomes the opportunity to co-convene this initiative, and we strongly support the collective effort to advance sustainable forest-based bioeconomy approaches. One of the strengths of this initiative is the diversity represented here. Different national contexts bring different insights, helping us to build a more coherent, practical and relevant understanding of what forest-based bioeconomies can deliver. The thematic sessions offer an important platform to explore the interconnected issues that shape sustainable forest-based bioeconomy approaches, from financing and supply chains to innovation and construction. These conversations are essential as we work to build more resilient, low-emission and resource-efficient economies. In Australia, we view many aspects of the bioeconomy as synergistic with our national transition to a circular economy, which we are accelerating to drive sustainable consumption and production. We are committed to maximising the use of the resources we have and, in turn, minimising waste. Forest and wood products are central to a circular economy, and we need to look to innovate across the value chain. Our commitment to sustainable forest management underpins our efforts, maintaining the value of forests environmentally, economically and socially. As we move away from linear extractive models of production and consumption, we are all aware of the invaluable role that forests and forest products can play. Wood is a versatile and renewable input for a wide range of uses, from engineered timber to biomaterials and bioenergy. One of the clearest challenges we face is ensuring reliable, long-term fibre supply. Fibre security underpins a sustainable forest-based bioeconomy. Without it, we will fall short on both environmental and economic outcomes. As pressure to grow the forest industry increases, we must do so in a way that is economically viable, environmentally sustainable, and at volumes that can be sustained. We must ensure we do not increase deforestation or forest degradation in our goals to improve forest-based bioeconomies. This requires coordinated long-term investment in growing our resource base, strong partnerships, and a deep commitment to sustainable forest management. Domestically, the Australian Government is supporting the expansion of our plantation estate with a focus on long rotation softwood and hardwood plantation forests to increase sustainable wood supply that delivers valuable resources the economy needs while sequestering carbon. Australia has established a new research and development organisation to drive transformative research, development and innovation in our timber industry. We are also supporting investment in advanced wood processing technologies through the Australian Government's Acceleration Adoption of Wood Processing Initiative program. This supports Australia's forest industries to innovate and improve the capacity and capability of this sector. Australia looks forward to the discussions ahead and to learning from partners across the region and globally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morel, for sharing Australia's perspective on the bioeconomy. Your remarks on Australia's strategic vision, your commitment to sustainable resource management provide valuable insights into the diverse regional approaches. And now I would like to invite Ms. Juliette Piao, Director of Secretary United Nations Forum on Forests, to the stage.
Excellencies, distinguished ministers, colleagues and partners, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to address this global summit on behalf of the United Nations Forum on Forests Secretariat. I wish at the outset to express our sincere appreciation to the government of Austria for its leadership in convening this timely country-led initiative and for its steady commitment to strengthening multilateral cooperation on forest. We are equally grateful to the co-conveners, Australia, Finland, Japan, and Turkey, and of course our sister organization, FAO, AUFRO, and all partners whose collaboration reflects the broad alliance required to advance sustainable forest-based bioeconomy approaches. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this summit comes at a pivotal moment. Around the world, countries are seeking solutions that are sustainable, scalable, inclusive, and science-based. Forest stands at the heart of this transition. For centuries, they have sustained livelihoods, provided energy and materials, secured water and food systems, and supported economic development while maintaining ecological balance. Today, in the face of climate change, biodiversity loss, and growing demand for renewable materials, forests offer pathways to carbon neutrality, material substitution, circular production system, and green jobs. Yet, transformation toward a sustainable forest-based bioeconomy is not automatic. It is a deliberate, stepwise process that must reflect national circumstances, respect ecological limits, and be grounded in equity, inclusiveness, and collaboration. It requires bridging policy, science, and practice, precisely the integrated framework that this summit is designed to provide. Over the coming days, we will hear from high-level policymakers, industry leaders, and leading scientists. Together, these perspectives will help us identify obstacles and opportunities, consolidate best practices, and define actionable priorities for implementation. This interdisciplinary engagement is essential if forest-based bioeconomy approaches are to deliver balanced environmental integrity, economic viability, and social inclusiveness. Allow me to underline three imperatives. First, sustainable forest management must remain the foundation. Bioeconomy pathways must strengthen, not compromise, the resilience, biodiversity, and long-term productivity of forest ecosystems. Second, the transitions must be inclusive. Women, youth, indigenous peoples, and local communities are not beneficiaries alone. They are right holders, innovators, and leaders whose knowledge and stewardship are indispensable. Third, International cooperation is critical. Sharing experiences, mobilizing financing, fostering technological innovation, and strengthening capacity across regions will determine whether ambition translates into impact. The outcome of this summit, including the co-chairs' summaries and the Vienna call for action, will transmit it to the 21st session of the United Nations Forum on Forests. As the only universal intergovernmental body dedicated to forests, UNFF provides the platform to connect your deliberation here in Vienna to the implementation of the United Nations Strategic Plan for Forests and the achievement of the Global Forest Goals. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, forests are not only resources, they are foundations for solutions across climate, biodiversity, and livelihoods. This summit has the potential to shape a shared global understanding and a common direction of travel for forest-based bioeconomy approaches. Let us therefore focus on impact, on aligning ambition with action, policy with practice, and innovation with sustainability. I wish you productive and forward-looking deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Biao, for sharing the perspective of the United Nations Forum on Forests on the forest-based bioeconomy. Your reflections, grounded in the UNFF's mandate to promote sustainable forest management, have highlighted how forest-based bioeconomy approaches can contribute to the achievement of the global forest goals. I am now delighted to invite Ms. Ismail Belen, the chair of the United Nations Forum on Forests, to the stage.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a great pleasure to be here with you in Vienna. As a forest engineer by training, I feel particularly honored to join distinguished foresters and friends of forests at this global summit. At the outset, allow me to express my sincere appreciation to Minister Norbert Toschnig and his distinguished team. Mr. Minister, you have a very amazing team. Congratulations. They work very hard. To all of you, my colleagues. Here we gather at a time marked by interlinked global crises, climate change, droughts, biodiversity loss, food insecurity, and widening socioeconomic inequalities. Yet, even in the face of these challenges, it is essential to recall a fundamental principle reflected in the Sustainable Development Goals. Every nation has the right to development, and every person has the right to prosperous and dignified life. Achieving this balance between planetary stability and human well-being requires systemic and forward-looking solutions. In this regard, forests and the goods and the services derived from sustainable management forest ecosystems play a truly pivotal role. They are not only ecological assets, but strategic foundation for resilient economies, social welfare, including secure water and food, and sustainable development. At the same time, we must recognize a scientific reality. As living forests, as living biological systems, depend on sound forestry science and silviculture methods for their growth, regeneration, and resilience. Without proper management, forests cannot thrive, and we know all too well that poorly managed forests become more vulnerable to fires, pests, and diseases. This is precisely why advancing sustainable forest-based bioeconomy approaches presents such a remarkable opportunity. It creates for nature, forests, economies, and people alike a true win-win outcome. But beyond mutual gains, it offers something even more valuable, a pathway for harmonizing human activity with nature, enabling them to progress together rather than in conflict. As a saying reminds us, Egnit mac stark, meaning unity makes strength. In our context, this unity must be the partnership between humanity and people and nature. In this regard, I warmly welcome the Vienna call for action for a thriving, sustainable forest-based bioeconomy. It provides a timely roadmap for scaling solutions from pilot initiatives to systemic transformation. Its emphasis on inclusiveness, targeted financing, innovation, and strengthened global cooperation reflects the level of ambition required to address today's interconnected environmental and development challenges. Distinguished participants, allow me to reiterate that United Nations Forum on Forests, as we have our director, Madam Juliet, here with us, as the intergovernmental policy platform continues to work actively with member states, which I represent the member countries there, the collaborative partnership on forests chaired by FAO, which we have Mr. Zeman, who as the chair of the CPF, and major stakeholders groups to advance implementation of the United Nations Strategic Plan for Forests. Through this collective effort, we seek to halt deforestation, restore degraded landscapes, conserve biodiversity, support food security, mobilize finance, and scale up sustainable forest-based bioeconomy solutions worldwide. In this broader context, I have the opinion that the Vienna call for action provides an important strategic compass for translating global commitments into coordinated implementation across institutions, sectors, and upcoming international processes. The months ahead provide a valuable sequence of opportunities to translate ambition into action. Very soon, on 21st of March, the world will celebrate the International Day of Forests under the main theme, Forests and Economies, underscoring the vital contribution of the forest to livelihoods, prosperity, and sustainable development. Shortly thereafter, we will convene at the 21st session of the UNFF in May in New York, where we have our colleagues, Hussein also is here from the Secretariat. So, Mr. Minister, we invite you to New York for UNFF in May. And it will be my last session as the chair of the UNFF. So, I would like to see all of you there. This momentum will continue at the FAO Committee on Forestry session later this year in September. And ultimately, the Global Climate Conference to be held in Antalya, Turkey in November 2026, where I will be truly pleased to welcome you to my country. In this context, I believe it will be highly beneficial to develop a forward-looking roadmap for implementing Vienna Call. As I conclude, I would like to once again to commend all those who have contributed to this conference, whose preparations I have had the privilege to follow from the beginning, and I extend my warmest regards to the global forestry family, including my wife, Madame Züleyha, is here to support me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rillen. Your emphasis on cross-sectoral cooperation and the integration of science, policy and practice has underlined the importance of fostering partnerships. This perspective enriches our summit's dialogue and helps bridge the gap between global policy agendas and action on the ground. I would now like to invite Jimin Wu, Assistant Director General and Director of the Forestry Division of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, to the stage.
Honorable Your Excellency Norbert Tuschnich, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored and privileged to address the opening of the Global Summit on Forest-Based Bioeconomy Approaches. And on behalf of FAO, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the government of Austria and the Honorable Minister and his team, excellent team, for hosting and chairing this global summit, and to the Republic of South Africa for acting as a co-chair, and to the partner countries and organizations for your leadership and engagement. FAO is proud of being a co-convener of the Global Summit. Around the world, countries are seeking pathways to accelerate climate actions, ensure food security, hold biodiversity laws, strengthen rural livelihood, and protect the resilient, say, ecosystems. So forests are uniquely positioned to contribute to all these objectives. Sustainable forest-based bioeconomy approaches help to reduce carbon emissions, create economic value, support food security and nutrition, and safeguard ecosystems. But although pilots of sustainable forest bioeconomy approaches exist, progress is insufficient. So this is why this summit matters. And COLI has demonstrated the value of inclusive and evidence-based dialogue. So for example, the global COLI webinars, there were 6 of them, held last year, enable policymakers, researchers, practitioners, and other stakeholders to reach a shared understanding of what is required to advance forest-based bioeconomy approaches. And FAO is a significant contributor to this evidence base, such as through its annual publication, Global Forest Product Facts and Figures, as well as the Forest Resource Assessment, FRA, which provide official data on the status of forests globally and how they are changing. So drawing on this baseline data and in partnership with the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis, FAO is evaluating 3 possible bioeconomy development pathways that meet global agreed targets. So initial results are compelling. The study forecasts a 30% increase in sawwood production by 2050 compared to 2020, and an increase of up to 50% in the production of plywood and fiberboard. So these increases would need to come primarily from shifts in forest management, increased efficiencies, and expansion of planted forests. FAO's engagement in this field of work is anchored in decisions by its governing bodies, especially Committee on Forestry. We have our chair here, Mr. Tati, chair of COFO 28, and also the Council of FAO, so requesting the organization to strengthen its technical support, capacity development, and knowledge exchange with regard to forest-based bioeconomy approaches. And the outcome of this summit, especially the Vienna call for action, particularly the 5, focal area of actions as presented by His Excellency, the Federal Minister in his opening remarks, will provide important inputs to the 28th session of COFO and 21st session of the UNEP, in addition to other global processes. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in the coming days, we will collectively explore the ways and means for advancing sustainable forest-based bioeconomy approaches, and FAO looks forward to this interactive dialogue and wishes to work closely with members and partners to turn sustainable forest-based bioeconomy approaches from vision into ground actions for the benefit of people and the planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wu, for sharing the perspective of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Your remarks highlighted FAO's holistic vision of a sustainable forest-based bioeconomy, one that promotes the sustainable production, utilization, conservation, and regeneration of biological resources. It is my pleasure to now ask Mr. Pierre Tatti, chairperson of the 28th session of the Committee on Forest, to the stage.
Excellencies, distinguished speakers, dear colleagues and participants from around the world, it's a great pleasure to be with you today for the opening Global Summit on Advancing Sustainable Forest-Based Bioeconomy Approaches. As chair of the 28th session of the Committee on Forestry, COFO, I'm delighted to join you in this important discussion on how we can scale up forest-based economy approaches to build a more sustainable, inclusive, and resilient future. I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the government of Austria for generously hosting this global summit. Your leadership and commitment to advancing sustainable forest management and bioeconomy approaches have made this gathering possible, and we are truly grateful for your hospitality. When I assumed my role as chair of Committee on Forestry in July 2024, I underscored that the challenges we face today require urgent solutions driven by innovation, goodwill, and above all, cooperation among all of us. Bioeconomy approaches provide a clear pathway to making this vision a reality. I'm firmly convinced that transitioning toward a bioeconomy built on renewable biological resources, supported by science, technology, knowledge, and innovation, is not only possible, but essential for achieving carbon-neutral and resilient societies. FAO has been a steadfast partner in supporting countries as they advance their bioeconomy agendas. This commitment lies at the heart of the FAO Strategic Framework 2022-2031, which places sustainable food and agriculture at its core. I'm particularly encouraged by all FAO's technical bodies, COFO 27 and COAG 29, among others, have welcomed this work and emphasized the importance of continuing dialogue and sustainable bioeconomy approaches. They called for greater engagement with members during the intersessional period, focusing on how the bioeconomy can support sustainable food and agriculture. This call for intersectoral coordination, inclusive engagement, and stronger global partnerships must remain central to our collective efforts. At the United Nations Forum on Forest in 2025, high-level forestry representatives reaffirmed the need for strengthened cross-sector collaboration and sustainable forest-based bioeconomy approaches, while underscoring the importance of engaging women, youth, indigenous peoples, and local communities. The objective is clear: a truly sustainable and equitable bioeconomy that leaves no one behind. Nonetheless, despite this progress, scaling up forest-based bioeconomy approaches continues to face significant challenges. To effectively accelerate this effort, we need, first, stronger governance mechanisms that fully integrated forestry and sustainable forest management into national and regional bioeconomy strategies. Second, greater innovation to develop inclusive and sustainable forest value chains. Third, expanding financing solutions to speed up implementation and ensure fair and equitable benefits. Fourth, enhanced collaboration, knowledge sharing, and capacity building to support evidence-based policy making and context-specific solutions. This is precisely where the summit comes in. It was convened, among others, as a response to the recommendations of the last COFO to organize an international conference to advance the forest sector's contribution to a sustainable bioeconomy. Its objective is to provide a strategic, inclusive platform for evidence-informed dialogue and sustainable forest-based bioeconomics approaches. Over the course of the thematic session, we will explore key issues from data and policy making to supply chains, financing, and partnership, addressing both the challenges and the growing opportunities of forest-based bioeconomy pathways. Our goal is to unlock the sector's transformative potential by reducing dependence on non-renewable resources and fostering climate-positive societies. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear participants, the rise of bioeconomy depends on two things: concrete action on the ground and exchanges between stakeholders. This summit is more than a knowledge-sharing platform. It's a space for co-creating solutions, building partnership, and driving tangible progress. Together, we will generate momentum for innovation and collaboration aligned with major multilateral platforms, such as the G20 Bioeconomy Challenges Initiative. By aligning our discussions and outputs with the key global forums, we can ensure that forest-based bioeconomy approaches receive the visibility and scale they merit, shaping national policies and global frameworks for the years ahead. I warmly invite you all to participate actively, share your perspectives, and help shape the future of forest-based bioeconomy approaches. I firmly believe that the future of humanity will be written with trees and forests. I wish you all a fruitful and inspiring experience throughout the session, and I very much look forward to the discussions ahead. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tati. Your insights have helped deepen our understanding of how global policy frameworks can advance sustainable forest-based bioeconomy. As a final speaker of this first opening session, I'm happy to announce Mr. Emmanuel Demarot, director of Virunga National Park in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. He's joining us today live online to share his insights with us. Because of technical issues, we cannot see him. Mr. Marot, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, dear friends, may I start by thanking you for the invitation, but also for offering my apologies for not being present with you today. Unfortunately, the circumstances in Eastern Congo have made it impossible for me to travel for the time being. But I would like to explain in a few minutes just how extraordinarily important we consider your work in your efforts to drive this new bioeconomy agenda to be with respect to our efforts in one small part of Central Africa's forests. I'd like to do that just by sharing with you the story of Virunga National Park and how it's grown over the last 20 years. And it really revolves around the extent to which we've become growingly aware how issues of acute environmental destruction feed into extreme violence. And this is one aspect of the problems that we're all trying to confront and for which we're trying to find solutions. Eastern Congo is a region of the world that is perhaps not dissimilar to many others, but is extreme in its condition. For 30 years, there has been a situation of chronic violence, of armed conflict, of civil war. It's perhaps best described as a sequence of 5 civil wars, of which we're currently living through the 5th. Now, collectively, those wars have provoked the death of what's estimated between 8 and 11 million Congolese people. Now, the fact that we don't even know what that number is an expression of how horrific this history of the region is. And it really gives us an overwhelming responsibility as a starting point to try to understand what those underlying causes of violence are. And the starting point is certainly the work of the UN group of experts on the Democratic Republic of Congo, who've been studying it since 2001 and issue a report every 6 months. Every single one of those reports has highlighted the relationship between the illegal exploitation of natural resources and violence as the underlying causes of those wars. And that's what really brings this issue to your work, to this conference. And so Virunga is just one small national park in the middle of all that, but it's also true to say that every single one of those 5 wars began either in or around Virunga National Park. And it really came home to us that we were tied into this tragic dynamic of natural resources, of forest resources and violence in 2007 when militia groups began an operation of killing all of the mountain gorillas in Virunga National Park. This meant stepping up the protection of those mountain gorillas and of course the protection of the forests around them, they being the mountain gorilla's habitat. And this put Virunga's staff at the very heart, on the very front line of that confrontation. Over the years, 217 of our staff have been killed in the effort to protect those forests. The cost has been too much. And it's really for those reasons that we reached out to a number of partners, in particular the European Union, who stepped up to work alongside local institutions, the real elements of what is needed to build a healthy society. The civil society, healthy, well-run public institutions, and of course the private sector. And to work on a very different approach, which involves looking at the deep systemic causes of violence and how they tie in with natural resources, and building an alternative model, which eventually became known as the Virunga Alliance, an attempt to bring Virunga into a collective effort with millions of people living around the park. And at the heart of that are, of course, those forest resources. To explain those dynamics of violence, it's relatively simple. People have a desperate need for land resources and for forest resources. Land for agriculture, for food, and forest biomass for fuel wood. Without it, people can't survive. Because it's in the national park, it's illegal to clear the forest for fuel wood, and so it becomes a resource that is of interest to illegal armed groups. In all, the turnover on illegal use of forest resources in Virunga National Park alone is $170 million a year. And that's from the clearing of forest for agricultural land, the clearing of forest for charcoal, for the 2 million people, for instance, living in Goma. With $170 million a year, you can finance an army, you can finance a war. And there you start to get the basic ingredients of violence, of armed conflict, of civil war. And so the issue becomes not one of protecting mountain gorillas or even protecting the gorillas, but how do you rebuild a whole new economy that is not a war economy based on the destruction of the forest and illegal resource extraction, but one that is respectful of the communities and that protects the forest. For us, it all ties into energy. We live in a region and in a national park that has high mountains, healthy forests for the most part, and extraordinarily high rainfall. This creates a network of streams that build into rivers that become torrents and that are extraordinarily high in energy, which can transform itself from this natural network of rivers maintained and stabilized by a healthy forest into a human network, which is a physical network. It's an energy network, a grid that transfers that energy from these natural ecosystems to the communities. And we were able to turn that into a business model over the years that's now seen in large, with a significant investment, particularly from the European Union, in grants, but also in blended financing with debt, interest supporting loans, into a $250 million investment in hydroelectricity and smart grid connections within the cities of Eastern Congo, to the extent that this ecosystem, Virunga National Park, has now become the biggest supplier of electricity in Eastern Congo. More importantly, it connects 50,000 households at the moment, but crucially 1,700 businesses. What became extraordinarily compelling is how to tie in this energy supply, these ecosystem services, to financial services, which led to a partnership with the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh to use ecosystem services electricity as a medium for providing loans to small businesses. And what that has led to is this very simple formula that if you generate a megawatt of electricity from natural forests through its river networks, that megawatt of electricity supplied to the community will create between 800 and 1,000 jobs. 11% of those jobs, and we're now at about 21,000, 11% of those jobs have turned out to be young men and women who have left the armed groups, put down their weapons, and regained their communities and their families, and obtained gainful employment. And so suddenly we have this formula, it's mathematical, that becomes an instrument for peace. There are many other aspects to that, and we're short of time, but essentially those trafficking networks are transforming themselves into a peace economy, value chains that support the communities and that protect the forest. Now, what's crucial about that is that it caught the attention of the DRC government about 14 months ago, just over a year ago, who sent a delegation to try and understand what was going on. In the midst of a civil war, this extraordinary process was happening. And their question was, how could it be scaled up to have an impact at a national level on a country that has been beset by war for many decades? And what eventually transpired was this extraordinary idea of replicating the model along a corridor which goes from the Kivus in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, across the Ituri and down the Congo River. A corridor that sees this energy creation in the eastern ecosystems, transforming some of the most fertile agricultural lands to produce 1 million tons of food, and transferring it to Kinshasa, the biggest city in Africa, with an enormous food security problem for its 20 million inhabitants, and thereby creating a whole new internal economy within Congo that creates this extraordinary target that we're trying to achieve of interdependence between natural ecosystems and the human landscape, the economic landscape, where the strength of one builds the wealth of the other. And so last year, we were extraordinarily fortunate to be able to present a law to Parliament that was passed in December 2025, and created the basis for what is now the largest terrestrial protected area on Earth, the Kivu-Kinshasa corridor, which has this ambition of creating 1 million tons of food, creating 500,000 quality jobs, but above all, creating economic interdependence between the east and the west of the country as a basis for peace, and through that, protecting the core of the Congo Basin, an area that is a protected area that is the size of France, 540,000 square kilometers. And so my final words really are words of encouragement. The work that you're doing is not just about protecting the environment. It's transformative, and it's the most important gift we can offer our children with respect to addressing some of the greatest challenges of our generation. So I would like to finish by wishing you the best and offering you our thanks for the attention you bring to these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. Your experience offers a compelling example of how conservation and sustainable use can be advanced hand in hand. You have demonstrated how forests can drive social economic development. Thank you very much. We have now arrived at the end of the high-level session. I would like to thank all the speakers for their contribution and for paving the way to the technical deliberations ahead of us. Before I hand the floor back to the moderator, I am pleased to officially transfer Austria's co-chairmanship to Mr. Georg Rappold. Thank you. Thank you.